This lecture is an overview, a very brief overview of cancer progression. So the material in this lecture focuses on solid tumor cancers. Blood cancers can be very, very different, both in prognosis, stages, treatments, and how they work. So this is really talking about the cancers that start with the solid tumor. It can be lung, breast, skin, liver, stomach, brain, muscles, bones, all of that sort of stuff. So cells that grow abnormally will form a tumor. This can be solid or it can be a hollow mass of cells. Sometimes these tumors are benign. Benign means harmless. And these are things like cysts, most warts, that sort of stuff. They all have an outer membrane that kind of contains them. Now, if there are additional genetic mutations, some benign tumors can become malignant. Most of them either revert or never cause a problem. The ones that progress to cancer are called malignant. Malignant means harmful. The tumor itself may or may not be a problem at the early stages. Some tumors, both benign and malignant, can produce hormones that will interfere with normal body function. Sometimes they can physically crowd other organs, especially in the brain. Your skull doesn't allow for growth inside the brain. It holds everything tightly in place. So if you get a tumor in the brain, it's going to increase pressure inside the skull, which by itself, that can be problematic. When we talk about the cells, the cancer cells themselves, they also have some very distinct characteristics. Once they have progressed to cancerous cells, they're no longer specialized. So your normal cells are specialized for specific functions. Cells in your hair follicles make hair. Cells in your liver detoxify things from the blood. Cancer cells don't do those functions anymore. They don't contribute to the survival of the organism or the tissue that they're in. They also have an increased rate of mutations. Mutations are any change in the genetic material. These changes start out small, but can progress to changes in the number of chromosomes and the structure of the chromosomes. So in humans, our genetic material is organized into 23 pairs of chromosomes. So you've probably seen pictures of these. They kind of look like sticks, sometimes bent sticks. In the images you may have seen, they don't always look like that, by the way. But instead of having 2 copies of each chromosome like a normal cell, cancer cells may end up with 3, 4, 5 copies of a specific chromosome, or no copies of that chromosome. They can also duplicate parts of the chromosomes, so the chromosome can be much longer than normal. Or regions of the chromosome can be deleted and the chromosomes will be shorter than normal. Regardless, this means that the nucleus has more copies of each gene. This can result in more than the normal amount of proteins being produced, which can cause all kinds of problems in the cell. And if you've got extra chromosomes, the nucleus often has to get larger to hold all those extra chromosomes. I mentioned apoptosis. Cancer cells do not undergo apoptosis. Most cells, if something goes catastrophically wrong and the cell cannot correct it, will undergo this process, programmed cell death or apoptosis. There are a series of changes that happen in the cell that allow it to break down, and the material can be recycled. It can be recycled by nearby cells or by white blood cells. Changes in chromosomes, whether in the number or the size, usually cause apoptosis. In cancer cells, this doesn't happen. The immune system can recognize cells when they're going abnormal and say, hey, yoo-hoo, there's something wrong, do apoptosis. And these cells, cancer cells, don't respond to that signal. Cancer cells also form these tumors. Your average cell in your body experiences something called contact inhibition, which means that when they touch another cell, they quit dividing. They're like, okay, there's no room for me. Cancer cells, they will continue to divide, pushing cells out of the way to form the mass. Cancer cells also stimulate the growth of blood vessels. Blood brings nutrients and oxygen to your cells. Cancer cells stimulate more and new blood vessels to bring in more nutrients and more oxygen so that the cells can continue to divide abnormally. This is a drawing showing cancer cells in the darker blue and purple. One of the things that cancer cells eventually develop the ability to do is move around the body. They detach from the original tumor site and then move through blood vessels or lymph vessels, or even just crawl between other cells, find a new location, and start a new tumor. Okay, the lymphatic system. This is something most people don't know much about. It's a series of vessels that are involved in moving liquids and white blood cells around the body. So your circulatory system, your blood vessels, move blood, nutrients, oxygen, and waste around the body, and that gets moved by the force of your heart. Lymph vessels don't have a pump like that, so it's just moves liquids around by things like muscle contractions of nearby tissues and just kind of the force of water moving around. And the lymphatic system also has swollen areas called lymph nodes. These you've probably heard about, or you may have felt like underneath the jaw when you've been sick. Lymph nodes are swollen areas that have a sponge-like interior. And this sponge-like interior can entrap bacteria and parasites and spreading cancer cells. So the cancer cells will go to the lymph node and they'll kind of stall there. This is why surgeons routinely remove lymph nodes near the site of a cancerous tumor. It enables those lymph nodes to be looked at for the presence or absence of any cancer cells. It kind of gives you an idea, has the cancer started to move around the body? If it has, that's going to require different treatments than if it stayed localized. The last thing I want to talk about is a little bit of cancer terminology. The cancer type depends on where the cancer began. So if you've been a lifelong smoker and you get lung cancer can move to the liver. If it's moved to the liver, it's still lung cancer. If you've got skin cancer, most skin cancers are relatively easy to treat, but melanomas can be very dangerous. If the melanoma progresses to your brain, it's still melanoma. It's still skin cancer. Why is this? Why does it matter where the cells originated? Well, it matters because different types of cancers need different treatments. So lung cancers require certain treatments, and their cells are going to have certain characteristics that make them more vulnerable to certain medications compared to a cancer that began in the liver. The next thing you may have heard about are stages. Oh, this person has stage 2 breast cancer. What does that mean? Well, you already got the breast part down, right? It started in the breast. So, and again, I want to put in that caution. This is generalized and it's for solid tumors. Stage 0, most cancers don't get caught in this stage, although we are getting better with detecting cancers early. And this is a very, very early form. Stage 1 is localized and small. Stage 2 cancers are a little bit bigger. They may have spread locally but not moved very far from the original site. Stage 3 cancers, again, they're getting bigger. They may have spread further, gone into local close by lymph nodes, but not widespread throughout the body. Stage 4, or metastasized cancer, cancer that has moved from the original site and now has formed tumors in multiple locations in the body. That's what metastasized means. It means the cancer has moved and started new tumors elsewhere. Not surprisingly, the earlier the stage, the easier the treatment. So that's kind of the overview of the process of cancer.